Hello everyone, this is Joseph again, and I just wanted to make a video to help a lot of students out with questions number 1 and 2. I just wanted to give a little bit of guidance to the students who have our Complete TOEFL Success or any of our speaking programs, and the students who don't have any, just to make sure that you're on the right track to really improve your score. Within this program, what I have is I have an explanation. So let's go to step 1, question 1, right? That's one of the things that we want to focus on. So when we go there, what we find is that I have a chart here. Now this chart basically tells you the structure that you have to focus on when you answer. Then it goes on to tell you that you need to focus on timing, and then a common sense understanding, and the delivery, and then your core content, and then intelligent connection. So these are the little things that sometimes create a big difficulty for students, because when we answer, we go into this psychological mode where we're just talking. We're just trying to get through the information. And if we've studied very hard or we're very high level, we can put together things that basically satisfy all of these requirements of what it takes to get a high level answer out to the grader, and as a result, a high grade. Well, the first thing that I want to let you know is that we've kind of restructured the way that we answer it so that it can be more adaptable to different questions. So when you sit down, you take the exam, whatever question you're asked, you're going to be able to answer it. So as a result, we took away the 2 reason structure, even though most questions are like that. So you see here that we've divided it into having an answer, which basically repeats the question, the idea of the question, so you're on topic. And then part 1, which is usually your first reason or whatever it may be, and then an example of support. And then part 2, maybe a second reason and an example of support, and then a conclusion. Now, everybody basically knows how to do this. Every program out there that teaches students how to answer the TOEFL basically teaches this. So why aren't that many students getting good ratings? Why maybe aren't you getting consistently good ratings? Well, it goes back to this chart. And as you can see, the whole program is designed to kind of teach you all the different kinds of questions in the manner that kind of helps you to create the effective answer that basically hits all of these points. So sorry if I'm moving around the page too quickly. Let's go back to our little page here. So I divided this into a couple of components, which is what I teach in the program. So structure we all have. That's this kind of information in red here. Timing is an important component, and I have it here, something that we'll work on. Common sense understanding, delivery, core content, intelligent connection. All of those basically divide into the amount of content you have, which is kind of like core content. Are you actually saying enough information? Because you may be perfectly fluent, but if you talk too slowly, the graders aren't going to hear the level of fluency necessary to get a good rating. And also the quality of content, which basically means you're actually explaining something in a way that sounds fluent. You show your understanding of English and your overall level of vocabulary. So let's go ahead and try a few questions together. Sorry, I keep moving that around. But let me go up here and let's actually go to step 2, where I have a lot of practice questions, right? 180 questions. So if you have the program, make sure that you use that, and this is how you want to go about it. So this is a real list of actual questions that were asked and used both on the writing and the speaking for the TOEFL. So let's just start with the first basic question. Some people believe that university students should be required to attend classes. Others believe that going to classes should be optional for students. Which point of view do you agree with? Use specific reasons and details to explain your answer. So let's go ahead and work together right now. Let's practice 15 seconds. Let's come up with our answer and 2 reasons. Alright, so you might have heard me use my pen there because I'm working just as you are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by showing you an answer that first satisfies the amount of content, so that will be good. It satisfies the timing, but it does not satisfy the quality of content. So what I've learned is rather than always give kind of those examples that are going to earn the great ratings, I want to give some answers that don't, so that you can really see the difference. Because even when I try to learn myself, sometimes it's good to learn the mistakes to avoid and not just what to do, because it helps us in the process. In my view, courses should be optional for students to attend in university rather than required for 2 reasons. First, you might have a bad class. For example, when I went to university, I was studying, and I really spent a lot of time studying in different classes, and some of the classes weren't very good. They were kind of bad. So it was a waste of time. So it would have been nice if it was optional. The second reason is that you might work. For example, when I was in university, some of my friends worked, and as a result, they couldn't attend classes. So classes should be optional, because if they're studying hard and they are doing their work, they should have the opportunity to study when they want. And that's why I feel this way. Right? So that's why I feel this way. It's just a quick conclusion. It's what I teach students when you're not quite sure what to say or to repeat the question. So of course you could do it two ways. You could say, that's why I believe classes should be optional, or that's why I feel that way. Because the conclusion is just really a period to your sentence. It's just to make sure that you're consistently having it at the end so that you're controlling your time. Now some of you may think, hey, that was a good answer. If you do, pay close attention. Because if I delivered on the exam, depending on the grader, I might get a good rating because of my accent. But if a student delivered that on the exam, I'm 99% certain that student is not going to get a good rating, which is not going to contribute to a score above a 24, 24 to 30 out of 30. If you deliver an answer like that, you can get up to like 22, so you can feel comfortable that once you have the amount of content and timing and the basic structure, you're going to get into the 20s, the low to mid 20s. But to get into the high 20s, 24 to 30, which a lot of my students are looking for or want to work towards, it's not going to cut it. So if you noticed, then what you can do is you could play the video again, listen to that recording a few times, really absorb it, because you're going to learn. It's very repetitive. There's no development. There's very limited vocabulary. And vocabulary doesn't mean you're using words like vulnerable or auspicious. I mean, those are vocabulary words, but they're not the kind of words that show fluency. It's everyday words in everyday language. So what the quality of the content represents is that you're able to tell a story through time, which means beginning, middle, and end of an experience that you had, that you walk the person listening through. For example, let's say I talk about university, right? Now, if I give a little bit of background story, it all of a sudden opens up a large amount of vocabulary. So I just give names and numbers, something that I focus on with my students, something that I focus on with you. About 7 to 8 years ago, when I was in university studying in New York, I was majoring in chemistry. Now I have 7 years ago, I have New York, I have chemistry, I have a variety, and I have the beginning of a descriptive story which shows fluency. So let's go ahead now and give a high quality answer. So let's go ahead and begin. In my view, attending classes at a university should be optional rather than required for two reasons. The first reason is that you might have a bad class. For example, when I was attending university in New York, I was studying chemistry, and I was taking a physics class, and the professor was really slow and boring, and I think attending it was a waste of time because I could have learned more studying the book on my own. The second reason is that you might be working. For example, when I attended high school, I worked after hours to help myself save money to buy a car in California. And I didn't do that when I studied in university, but a lot of my friends did. So they should have the freedom to be able to do that because they're adults. And that's why I feel that way. Now, it's important for you to use this video to improve yourself. So pause the video, record your answer, 45 seconds, listen to it, evaluate whether it's like the first or the second, and keep practicing until you get it like the second where you tell a story. When you heard me give the answer, you basically heard everything be the same except the example. The first example I gave is just a perfect standard example. I walked you through an experience that was a positive reinforcement of what I stated, which means I said my classes should be optional because I had a bad professor, and it would be better to study by myself than to study in that actual classroom setting. So very clear and direct. That's the peak example you always want to have. The second example is for those students who sometimes don't have a direct experience with the question being asked, right? So let's say you didn't go to university yet. So I talked about high school, and I said how I had to work after hours. And then I talked about university, referencing my friends, not me, but my friends. Some of them work, so they should have that option to work because they're adults, and be able to skip some classes. So what you can do is reference an experience that you do have that's related to the question, but then connect it. So I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, don't worry, because I'm going to give you a lot of examples that I hope go through this. If you have difficulty coming up with a high quality answer, what you want to do is you want to study in steps. First, you have to make sure that the amount of content is strong. So if you speak a little bit more slowly, you're not very comfortable with English, then what you want to do is exercises to improve how quickly you speak. For example, in the program, in step 1, especially in step 3 actually, where I have a lot of exercises, I have one increasing speed. So whatever it is that you need to do, you work on that by itself. So you forget about content, you forget about timing, and you just do exercises on increasing speed. I have some there for you to study. Make sure that you review that. Sometimes that can take days, sometimes that can take weeks. It just depends on your score and your current level. Then what we do is, once we have the amount of content down, we start to work on the quality of content. So for me, in my first answer, I would be like, hey, my amount is good, my timing is good, but my quality isn't. So you work on quality. And here in step 3, I have exercises for great content, where you keep trying until your example does have that storytelling, that beginning, middle, and end, does have that descriptive nature where you use names and numbers, right? Studying chemistry, physics class, worked California, right? Trying to save up for a car, that kind of thing. Because that is a natural variation of vocabulary that's going to get you a high score. Once the quality of content is strong, then you bring in the timer, then you try to put it all together. So now let me just choose a couple of questions randomly and give you some examples to follow. Okay, you have decided to give several hours of your time each month to improve the community where you live. What is one thing you will do to improve your community? Why? Use specific reasons and details to explain your choice. And start preparing now. Now we have 45 seconds, and here's my example answer. Again, after you hear me, stop the video, practice yourself until you get a perfect answer according to the way that we practiced. So here we go. In my view, if I had a few hours to give every month to improve my community, I would do children's reading exercises for 2 reasons. First, it's going to be fun. For example, I live in Pasadena, California, and there are a lot of programs to help children, but a lot of them don't focus on reading. And when you read a story, you can get the children to understand different parts of the world, which I think is exciting. The second reason is that children will learn to enjoy reading. For example, when I was young, I remember in Temple City, I went to our local library in the summer every now and then, and somebody would do this and read stories to us. So that was really something that made me love reading at an early age, which is great. And that's why I feel that way. Don't forget, community. I told you what community I lived in, right? A lot of students don't say that. Bad habit. Quality of content is not there. You're not answering the question. Be specific, names and numbers, no matter what it is. Even if it's something that's not English, as long as you say the name of it and then describe it, you'll be fine. Now let's go ahead and do another question. Okay, here's our next question. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Advertising can tell you a lot about a country. Use specific reasons and examples to support your answer. So let's go ahead and give us 15 seconds to prepare. Let's go ahead and begin preparing now together. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. In my view, advertising can tell you a lot about a country, and I feel that way for 2 reasons. The first reason is that it'll teach you about the food that a culture eats. For example, in the United States, which is where I live, if you look at commercials on TV, you'll see a lot of advertisements for fast food restaurants like McDonald's and Wendy's and Burger King. So if you're a foreigner, you'll know that's what Americans like. The second reason is I think it teaches you a lot about industry. For example, when I was watching TV the other day, I remember watching a commercial for internet like business. So as a result of that, everybody would know that the United States has a strong internet community and that they're focused on business. And that's why I feel that way. So I really hope that this video helped you. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Practice, practice, practice. Feel comfortable, feel confident. Good luck, all right? Because you're going to be able to succeed on the test. The TOEFL is just like anything else. Just stay strong, stay focused, stay motivated. Have a great one, everybody.